The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
The David Pakman Show is mostly funded by individual memberships, like the one you can get at davidpakman.com/membership. You can also read about all the member benefits there. It would be much appreciated to have you on board as a David Pakman Show member. The current minimum wage is lower than what a minimum wage worker earned in 1968 when you adjust for inflation. Currently, the minimum wage is federal minimum wage is $7.25, and that was set back in 2009. That works out to about $15,080 a year, assuming you work 52 weeks at full time, 40 hours per week. Now, most people don't work that much, Lewis. They would work usually around 50 weeks per year is what I'm referring to. Most people would work about 50 weeks per year, taking two vacation weeks would be considered normal. Now, even assuming you work the 52 weeks at 40 hours a week and make the $15,080 before taxes, when adjusted for inflation, of course, that is less than in 1968. But interestingly enough, that is $50 below the federal poverty level, assuming that you have two people living in your household. So the scenario this applies to, of course, if you live completely by yourself, you are above, barely, but you are above the federal poverty level working at minimum wage. The federal poverty level for one person in the household is $11,170. Now, if you have a child, so this kind of brings up the single parent scenario, it's actually $15,130 a year. So what's interesting to me is that I believe having a higher minimum wage would actually be more fiscally conservative because, Lewis, think about, especially having a child, all of the social programs that you qualify for if you have one child and you make the minimum wage. By the way, you're not getting any vacation, 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year. You are below the federal poverty level. Wouldn't it be more fiscally conservative to have a higher minimum wage? And then you would actually be able to save, and this is the fiscal conservatism argument. This is not my argument for a higher minimum wage. You'd be able to save so much on the social programs that family, single parent family, would be entitled to.
But you're going to hurt small businesses.
Natan, how would you respond to that?
I would respond that even on the face of it, without having more evidence to prove it otherwise, certainly you can't say that it'll hurt small businesses. If you pay people more, they're more likely to be motivated to work better and be more productive. So, I mean, and the same with what you're saying about services. The better people are, the more productive they're going to be. So I don't think that it necessarily means that businesses are going to suffer.
The other issue, of course, is actually you could make the argument that if you had a higher minimum wage and you had less people receiving those social programs because they didn't need them, then you could actually reduce some of the taxes that are levied on small businesses and really turn back some of that additional expenditure for wages. So I'm kind of sick of this idea that we need even lower minimum wages. I think Michelle Bachmann said we should have a $2 or $3 an hour minimum wage, and that would just be fantastic for the economy. No, because people would still qualify for all sorts of social programs, which in part are funded by all sorts of different employer and employee paid taxes. Let's think critically here about this, and let's figure out that if people make really a living wage, everybody's going to be much better off.
Right. But I mean, there are some things we could get into. We could get into benefits too, and what small businesses can do benefit-wise to help employees, rather than just raising the minimum wage, and how the government can help them achieve that. But
imagine if there was single payer and you disconnected benefits at all from your employer.
In a perfect world.